Do you spend hours each week creating Instagram content, but you're still not getting the sales and the wins that you see everyone and their mom sharing to their feed? It's really rough, but there's usually just a few simple changes you need to make to get there, and I'm going to help you. You are closer than you think. You can find the exact gaps that you have in your Instagram strategy, the gaps that are holding you back from getting clients from your content with my free Find and Fix the Gaps in Your Instagram Strategy quiz. All you have to do is take 5 minutes to fill out the quiz and you'll get the exact roadmap you need to start getting sales from your Instagram content. Get your copy of the quiz at sociallyyours.biz/findandfixed. All spelled out, all one word, find and fixed, or check the link in the show notes. Welcome back to Mompreneur Mastery, simple Instagram strategies for busy moms. This is your host, Sydney O'Brien, and today is really exciting because I get to talk to Laura Sinclair. Laura is a strategic business mentor, she's a podcast host, and she's the founder of This Mother Means Business. She's dedicated to empowering entrepreneurial moms to build profitable, fulfilling businesses without sacrificing their personal lives, which you know I am all about. She has a passion for supporting women in overcoming burnout, overwhelm, and business plateaus. Laura provides clear strategies in marketing, systems, leadership, and customer experience. Known for her relatable, story-driven approach, she helps women gain clarity, confidence, and joy while achieving sustainable growth. Through her mentorship, retreats, and community, Laura inspires women to align their business success with their values and life goals. I got so much great information from this interview, and I cannot wait for you to listen to it. Laura has built just such an amazing community of mom business owners that she's going to talk about at the end of the episode. So make sure you listen to get all the information on how to join that for free. Welcome to the Mompreneur Mastery podcast, where we share actionable Instagram strategies that fit into a busy mom schedule so that you can get more engagement, more leads, and more sales in less time. I'm Sydney O'Brien, an Instagram strategist who started my business with 3 kids under 5 and found a way to do it without sacrificing quality time with my family and only working 2 hours a day. I love helping other mom business owners find that seemingly impossible mom work-life balance instead of spending too much time creating content that isn't getting them the results they want. If you're an overwhelmed but very ambitious business owner and you want to strategize the heck out of your Instagram account so that you can save time and make more sales, you're in the right place. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a strategic business mentor for early stage female founders, and I work with a lot of moms. But my background's in corporate marketing. Actually, I have a public relations and corporate marketing background. I left the corporate world in 2015 to run a CrossFit gym. I ran a CrossFit gym for 7 years. And then when the world shut down for 2 weeks out of an abundance of caution, I was pregnant with my son, my second child, and shifted my whole life, my whole business online, and really started mentoring women and moms from there. It was never really my plan to mentor moms. It just kind of kept presenting itself. And the more clients that were coming into our world, they were kind of all moms. And we were having these conversations about building businesses as moms and how different it is. And, you know, I was paying thousands of dollars to join masterminds and be in rooms. And I remember thinking to myself, how are these people parents? Like, this advice, none of this advice is really aligning for me. And I can't do that. You know, I don't have time to take 7 gratitude walks a day and then also run my business and take care of my kids. Like, that's just not available to me. And so over time, it sort of started with my podcast, which is called This Mother Means Business, and then shifted into a mastermind for mom entrepreneurs. And then this past year, I started my community, which is called This Mother Means Business, which is a community for mom entrepreneurs.
That's amazing. Yeah, I keep seeing like business accounts on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, and they're like, oh, just wake up early to get your work done, stay up late. Everyone has the same 24 hours in a day. And I'm like, dude, I don't think we're having the same days. They're a little different.
No, everyone, like, it's so funny because I would love to be a person that gets up at, 5, 6 a.m. and works out in the basement of my house. But what happens when my kid wakes up at that time or has to pee and they're hollering for me because they've had a nightmare at 5 a.m. or they're ready to wake up and I'm in the basement? Like, it just doesn't really work. And then, you have the whole work harder thing, like, just do more. It's like, do you have any idea what it's like to actually... I actually had seen Alex Hormozy, who is a childless man, who I have respect for because he's built an incredible business, posted something on social media a few months ago, and it was to the effect of, like 5 things that you need to be doing to be a successful entrepreneur. And he lost me at the first one. The first one was wake up when you're ready. I was like, oh man, this man does not have children. You're just waking up wake up when your body wakes up. Yeah, I built 2 tiny little alarm clocks and they're going to tell me when it is that I wake up. So there really is so much difference between what we can do. I really believe that we can build wildly successful businesses. It just has to look different. And so that's the work that I do.
Yeah, it definitely looks different. And I feel like for me, at least, with my kids are home with me during the day. So the time I have to work is much less than a lot of people. And so the growth is much slower. And I find I have to stop comparing myself to like other businesses, especially ones that are run by people that aren't parents or who have like childcare, because the growth rate is just going to be different.
Yeah, you really do have to put your blinders on and not compare yourself to others as much as possible. It can be really hard. And I actually was an entrepreneur before I became a mom. And so I have this, I have seen both sides. And, my entrepreneurs that don't have kids don't love when I say, like, it's way harder when you do. And they're like, but you can't know it until you live it. But yeah, there's so much of it that is just different. And you can be successful. It just has to look different. And it may take a little longer. And that's okay. Or you may need to delegate a little more than the typical person, but then that requires the income in your business to actually be able to do that delegation. So it's definitely a complicated web, especially when you're a person that's ambitious and you also are a devoted mother and you want to be there for your kids. And so you really do have to filter your sources as far as where you're getting information and truly giving yourself a lot of grace.
A lot of grace. Yeah. And I find myself like being very particular and one, like how much social media content I consume, because I am the kind of person where I see things and I'm automatically like, oh my gosh, why aren't I doing that? Why don't I have like the same successes? And also like you said, filtering who you get information from.
Yeah, you really have to be able to either filter like who you're receiving information from or filter the information. I mean, I paid thousands of dollars years ago to go to a mastermind to be part of a program that was run by someone that doesn't have children. And I knew this, I'm happy to get information from people that don't have children. I don't think I could ever be mentored by someone that doesn't.
Right.
And, you sit in the rooms and you have to be able to decide what's for you and what's not. And just because somebody's saying, okay, it has to be this way, this is the only way. You have to be able, and this is, part of the work that I do with my clients is look at, okay, like that might be the way that there's like evidence of that working, but we have to look at the human element of it too. And so how do we filter which parts of that are for you and how do we take what's for us and just leave the rest and not feel badly about leaving the rest?
Yeah. The feeling badly is like a big thing. I feel like sometimes no matter what I do, there's the mom guilt there.
Yeah. Mom guilt is one of those things that I have learned to detach myself from a little bit. Doesn't mean it doesn't show up, but I think for me, and you and I were chatting about this a little bit before we started recording, I know that in order for me to show up as the best version of myself and the most present version of myself for my kids, that I actually have to take the space to work on my business, to exercise, to do the things that I need for me. Because if I don't do that, I'm not particularly pleasant for starters, but I'm also really distracted, very distracted. And so, we talk about balance a lot in business as mom entrepreneurs. And for me, balance is like truly having the privilege of being able to be where my feet are in any moment. And so if I'm with my kids, I'm with my kids. And if I'm working on my business, I'm working on my business. I'm not trying to do 2 things at once because that never really works well for anybody. But guilt is something that I've been able to let go of a little bit because I know that even if I'm creating space from them or I'm going away for a week on a retreat in a couple of months, and there's no part of me that feels bad about it because I know that, first of all, they're going to be loved and taken care of by the people that love them here at home, which is amazing. But I also know that when I come back, I'm going to be so much more present and energized and excited to be around them. And they're going to get the most fun version of mom rather than like the kind of crusty, distracted, not super attentive version of myself. So for me, guilt is like, if I'm doing something, it's because that's going to actually make me better for them. long term, even if in the short term it means that we're spending a little bit of time apart. So that's something that I've shifted for myself. I know it can be easier said than done sometimes, but especially depending on like our circumstances or our external pressures and values and things like that. But for me, I've really tried to break up with mom guilt as much as possible.
I love that. I need that in my life.
Yeah. I still feel badly when I like forget to send, the correct outfit or thing to school. Like I forget the theme day at dance class. I will never forget the day that my daughter was 2. We went to dance class and everyone else was in the costume except for her, but she was only 2 and she didn't care. But I still have those moments where, because I'm building a business and doing all of these things, that there are little pieces that tend to fall to the wayside. Fortunately, she's 7 now, so she's the one that will remind me, hey, I need a costume. So that works out great. But there are still some of those moments that I'm definitely not perfect. I'm definitely not not the PTA mom. I don't volunteer at the school that I don't have capacity for. So there are, there's checks and balances for sure. But yeah, I think for me, like we get to choose. We get to choose our reality. And for me, like guilt, I think is a choice. And it's usually like an external story, right? That's not necessarily ours, but that's something that's been really helpful for me over the years.
Yeah, for sure. And I like that you said you don't take on like the PTA or other things, like being very intentional in what you do focus on and spend your energy on probably really helps with that.
Yeah. I mean, I'd also be a terrible PTA mom. Just let about myself. And so, yeah, I think having boundaries is essential when you're a mom running a business. And like that's such a cliche thing to say, right? Oh, you need to have boundaries, but it's also like on the things that you say yes to and the things that you say no to, and not saying yes to things you really want to say no to. Like we don't have to do that. Those are things that we do to ourselves. I don't have capacity to be on the PTA, so I'm just not. And that's okay, right? I still be present with my kids. It's winter time. We're going skiing later today after school. I'm going to pull her out of school a little bit early so we can go skiing. And so we find the flexibility in other places. Like I think a big part of like motherhood and entrepreneurship is truly, and I was just having this conversation with a client the other day, is being able to define for yourself what success looks like and define for yourself what's enough. What is, how much time do you want to be spending on your business? How much money do you really need to make? How much time do you want to be with your kids? And like those get to be just singular definitions for you. You get to decide how much time is required. There's no, your supports and my supports are different. You and I are different people. Anyone that's listening, like you're different too. And so I think a lot of us try to subscribe to this idea of what quote unquote good motherhood is or good business ownership is based on some external definition. But at the end of the day, like it's on us. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that as such a gift that we actually get to subscribe to our own definition of these things and then walk proudly in it, right? My version, when we were talking before, you homeschool your children, mine go to a school. And those are different choices, both incredibly valid, right? Both perfect for, I mean, I'm sure there's perfect, maybe a stretch, but they're both, the words that's the choices that we've made. And not one is more valid than the other. No one would say, oh, Sydney, you're a much better mom than Laura, or Laura, you're a much better business owner than Sydney. Like none of that is true. It's just those are our own definitions that we get to live by and honor each other's.
Yes, that hits home so hard. I feel like, relating it to homeschooling too. And my kids are neurodivergent. So some of the things we work on are not like what other people would consider success for their ages, but it is for us. And that's like, those are huge wins when we get to meet some of those milestones. And the same can be said for business. If you have like limited resources or like extra needs with parenting, being like the primary caregiver or whatever, alongside your business, your version of success is going to look different for sure.
Absolutely.
You said you had been an entrepreneur before becoming a mom. How has your definition of success changed since becoming a mom?
Oh my goodness. In every way. I think, when I first started, it was just about making money. I just want to be successful. I want to be financially independent and have financial freedom, whatever that meant. And, I think before kids, that probably meant like going on trips, buying nice outfits. It was really material. And I think since having children, that definition has just really changed around a different kind of freedom. And freedom of time is one, freedom of my mind is another. Another really big one for me in entrepreneurship, and why I choose entrepreneurship always is like to create what I want to create when I want to create it. But success for me, it's funny, I actually just posted a reel about this on Instagram. And it's about like being able to do what I want, when I want, with who I want, rather than just making money. Of course, making money is great. Money allows for a lot of those things, but I think it's much more interesting personally that I can pull my son out of school and go ski in the middle of the day on a Thursday and not have to ask anybody's permission and have the means to be able to do that versus, me showing a screenshot of my Stripe payout.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel the same way. Like we go every week, we have field trip Fridays where we go to like the zoo. We have like the Lego Discovery Center nearby. We like to go play there, an aquarium, stuff like that. Like being able to do that and having the time and the capacity to do that is definitely like our version of success here.
Yeah, me too. And, I think there's nothing wrong with having a financial success goal. I think that's an important thing. Like I love money.
For sure.
I love making money.
Yeah.
It allows me to do a lot of things. But I think it just becomes like a layered version of success. And, I've been in seasons of business where I've made a lot of money, and I've been in seasons where I haven't made as much money as I would have liked. But it all being able to, do pick up and drop off and being there for my kids has remained constant throughout. And so I consider every year of entrepreneurship a success, even if my bank account wasn't as overflowing or full as it might have been the year before.
That's really important to keep in mind. I feel that's something I was struggling with recently, because what you do see online is like those screenshots of like Stripe payouts and things. And again, there's like that constant comparison online of like, oh man, mine doesn't look like that. What am I doing wrong? Why am I not measuring up? But yeah, it's going to be different at different times for sure. What do you think the biggest misconception is about being a mom and a business owner?
Ooh, that's a good question. What do I think the biggest misconception is? Like from other moms or from the external?
From other moms.
So I think that there's this misconception that like being a mom and an entrepreneur means like it's just like this cute thing. And like you can't really be serious about your business. Like it can only be a side hustle.
Yeah.
Like there's no space for you to have a wildly successful business. So it's just going to be this like cute little, I use the word pink to describe it. It's like it's very pink. It's very cute. And that there isn't space to be successful in both. And I think that I'm walking proof. I'm pretty sure that I'm walking evidence that you can be successful in both. And, there's different seasons of motherhood and different requirements of motherhood, right? If you're homeschooling or you have neurodivergent children or you have sick children, where it's all going to look different, but it doesn't have to be this cute little thing. You can be breadwinner and mom and badass in all the ways if you want to, right? And I think for me, that's the one that I see the most, is this feeling that like, well, I'm a mom, so I can't. It's like, well, no, you can. It's just going to look different. And it does. I'm not going to pretend that it doesn't require sacrifice. It of course does. It absolutely does. But I think that's the big one for me, is that you can't have it all, but you can. You just have to do it all, but you can have it all.
Right. That's really interesting. I think another thing people assume when I say I'm like a mom and a business owner is they're like, oh, you have an MLM. Like you're in an MLM. Like, no.
Hey, you're an MLM. Yes, that's another really big one for sure. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, cool. So like I had somebody, just like make that assumption about me once because I have an online business. It was like, oh, I sometimes I get, how's your little Instagram business? And I'm like, you're joking, right? But yes, the MLM assumption is a strong one for sure. It happens a lot.
Especially, I feel my husband's in the military, and it's very hard for military spouses to find like jobs when they have to move every couple years. So a lot of military spouses will be in MLMs. So when they hear that too, people are immediately like, oh, so what do you sell? Is it essential oils, makeup? Like, what is it? I'm like, no.
Listen, I know some people that are really successful in MLMs. I think that, and that's great for them. I think that there's a lot more that's problematic in an MLM than is actually really successful. I mean, we all know that statistics of becoming successful in an MLM are extremely low, but I don't want to knock them for the people that I love that are incredible and do incredible at them, but it's definitely not my favorite business model. And it's not my favorite assumption, obviously, as a person who is really passionate about her work, that has absolutely nothing to do with MLMs at all.
Right. Yeah. And the people that are in them are still trying to do like the same thing, finding success for themselves and their family while being parents, which is great.
Listen,
So,
we're not going to knock that. You, at the end of the day,
right.
girl, you do you. Whatever you got to do. I don't agree with predatory practices. I don't agree
Right.
with like those elements of any business, not just an MLM. I mean, I'm an online business mentor, and there's a lot about being an online business mentor that is, coaches teaching coaches how to teach coaches, which in itself is very pyramid schemey, just as it is. And that's not me. I don't typically work with coaches at all. I typically work with service providers and people in the wellness space. I'm not a coach that coaches coaches. That's not what I do.
Yeah. I saw a thread, I think it was the other day, someone making that comparison of like people who are coaches, but only for coaches, and like relating it to a pyramid scheme type of thing. And I was like, I don't know why I never made that connection before.
Oh yeah, it's a total pyramid scheme. Total pyramid scheme.
Like, what is it called? Where you buy the course, you go through the course, and then you sell the same course. MRR.
Yeah, that's MRR. That's I don't know if that's as much of a pyramid scheme. That's a weird business model, though.
Yeah, it's strange.
It's a strange business model because ultimately you're going to run out of people to buy from. And I mean, I certainly want to build a business model where, people are going to keep coming back to me in a way that's meaningful. And so, yeah, the MRR business model is also really not great. The challenge with all these business models, actually, like as a marketer, we're talking like purely from a marketing perspective, whether you're starting your own business, you're joining an MLM, you're going to buy a digital course to resell, you still need an audience, right? Like you still have to have people to sell to. And so where these become challenging, and MLMs and MRR, whatever other acronym we're using specifically, is that they become predatory because it says, okay, Sydney, just buy my $500 course and then you can sell your $500 course and that's how you're going to make money. Well, who are you going to sell it to? And same with MLM. Who are you going to sell this product to if you don't have a personal brand, if you're not doing the things to show up and grow an audience? Like, sure, maybe you could sell it to your aunts and your cousins and your next door neighbor's sister, but eventually that pool is going to run out. And so, all online business is really predicated on your ability to build community and to build an audience. I mean, all the people that I mentioned that I know that are successful in MLMs have huge social media followings.
Yeah, that's a great point. What do you think has been your proudest moment as like a mom business owner?
Great question. I know I have one upcoming and I know it's going to come, but I'll tell you about this one. So my proudest moment is my daughter brought home a piece of artwork. And at the end of the day, like everything that I do is for my children, right? Yes, I'm wildly ambitious. Yes, I want to achieve success, but I'm not going to be buried with my money, right? Like it's for them. Right. And it's showing them what's possible as moms and entrepreneurs. And my daughter brought home a piece of artwork and it was in French. She goes to French school, and I'm actually not great at French, believe it or not, but I was able to read it. And it was a self-portrait and it had some questions on it. And one of the questions was, it was like about a future self. And it was like, where do you work? Like, what do you do? And she wrote, like, I work from home. I work for myself in French, which I just thought was so cool because she said she was going to be an artist who works for herself. And growing up, that was never something that I even knew was an option. I grew up in where you go to school, you go to university or college. We call it university here in Canada. And then you work for someone else. And that's just what you do. Entrepreneurship is not a thing. I grew up thinking entrepreneurship was like I needed to be Sarah Blakely and invent Spanx. I needed venture capital. I didn't know that entrepreneurship could be providing service and doing something. I don't want to say small because it's not fair, but, making multi-six figures on the internet. I didn't know that was an option. It was like, if I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I have to be an inventor. And so I think it's really cool for my daughter to be able to see that, hey, you know what, like motherhood can be different and like you can create whatever version of life that you want. So that for me stands out as a very, very proud moment. I also authored a book this year or last year, co-authored in a book, and the look on my daughter's face when she discovered mom was an author, when she actually got to hold the book in her hand, was very, very cool. And then I'm hosting an event this year for the first time, and I'm looking forward to having her at the event too. I know that'll be another proud moment. But a lot of these moments, aren't about money. These are moments about just being able to show my kids what's possible. And that's what it's all about to me.
I love that. That's so cool. Did you get that picture framed?
I took a picture of it. It's very large. It's like one of those like giant pieces of artwork where you're like,
Oh, yeah.
I love this so much, but it is far too large. It's like one of those, like 3 foot by 2 foot specials that I don't know if I can keep that, but definitely it's been digitally captured forever.
Perfect. That's smart. We have my kids are really into art, and I struggle with storing it all because I don't want to throw it away. So taking pictures of it is a good idea.
Yeah, you know what? I had in my office drawers and drawers full of art, and I just moved them into a Tupperware bin for the same reason. Some of the moms I know are savage about throwing away the art, and I'm getting to be that way. But, my son, it was just Valentine's Day. My son just came home with this little love bug, it's made a half of a paper plate with hearts on it. It's adorable. Do I need to keep it? No, but how do I throw away this little love bug?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
My husband is much more sentimental about it than I am. He has boxes and boxes of them. And my kids will hand me something. I'm like, this is great. I love it. And then it'll hang out for a couple weeks and magically disappear.
I wish that I was better about taking the pictures. I wish I'd started and then I got myself in this mountain of art but now when things come home, I try to take pictures of it so I at least have it, the memory.
Yeah, taking pictures is smart. I need to start doing that. Have there ever been any unexpected lessons from motherhood that have helped you in your business?
So many. I think, I always like to equate motherhood to being a series of failures, especially when you have a baby, right? You don't really know what your kid needs. And then it's you get it wrong and wrong and wrong and wrong and wrong until you get it right. And then you've got it right. And then something changes. And now you're again having to is it this? Is it that? No, try this. Nope, wrong. And then, so I think there's a lot about that process that lends actually really nicely towards motherhood, because in both motherhood and entrepreneurship, there's so much that's out of your control, so much. And so continuing to be willing to get it wrong, to try something different, to pivot, I think that has been a piece of motherhood that's made me a better entrepreneur, because I don't always have the answers. I mean, I've never had a 7 and 4-year-old before. I'm doing this for the first time. We're dealing with new things with my kids for the first time, new behaviors, new, stories, new troubles, things that are coming up. And the same thing as your business. As your business grows, there's going to be new challenges, right? New levels, new devils, all of that stuff. And so I think that sort of adaptability that's required in motherhood is helped me a lot in being able to stay the course and ride the waves in my business.
Yeah, I always say the same thing, the adaptability, because in parenting, you're always in a different season and you never know when it's going to end, whether it's teething or my kids will go through seasons where they're like, okay, all we're going to eat is plain pasta and strawberries. Then the next week or a couple weeks later, it's going to be something completely different, and you just have to roll with it. I think another one skill you have for motherhood that translates well is the ability to multitask and prioritize.
Yeah. The capacity, the amount that we hold is insane, right? The capacity of moms, period, right? And then you're holding entrepreneurship as well. That ability to navigate all of that. I love hiring moms in my business for that reason.
Yeah. And then I think a big helpful part of it, just like in motherhood where, you have to find your village, having a community for entrepreneurship as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's why this Mother Means Business exists.
And you have a community connection call too, don't you? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So every other Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern time, we host a community connection call. I have been hosting these calls for 2.5 years, which is so fun. It's really just a place. It's no pressure. It's free. You get to come and just meet other mom entrepreneurs. I really believe that entrepreneurship is only as lonely as you make it. And so motherhood can be really lonely. Entrepreneurship, also really lonely. You put these two things together, it's a wild ride. And so I love these calls. It's just a chance to come and meet with other moms, to recognize, to know you're not in it alone. I really believe that a lot of our success in business is who, not what. And so even just the collaborations that have come out of those community calls, people finding their business besties or their next collaboration partner, or even clients, has been really cool. But it's just a chance to come in and be in a safe space and know that, everybody that is there knows what it is that you're going through.
I love that. I want to sign up for this now. I will put a link in the show notes.
Please. I would love to see you at one.
Yeah. And is it okay if maybe a 4-year-old pops their head in at some point during the call?
Yes. Come as you are at all times. This is acceptable everywhere. What's so funny is I run a mastermind twice a year. And I just yesterday had our first mastermind call. And one of the women on the call was basically being accosted on the entire call by her 5-year-old. He just would not let her leave her be. And it was just so funny because no one else on the call cares. It's all moms, right? Like, this is not, you come in your pajamas with 17 kids on I don't care. We've had, you need to breastfeed on the call, go for it. It is the safest place on the internet that I've ever seen, but it's truly come as you are. Like, there is no needs to apologize for your chaos. Bring your chaos, bring whatever breakfast you're eating at the time, whatever you need. Yeah. It's a great place to be.
Awesome. That sounds great. Cause motherhood, like you said, itself can be very lonely. And then being an entrepreneur, especially like an online one, also very lonely. So I'm excited to join.
And what's funny is I got a message the other day from someone who came to the first call. Usually when I see somebody new on the call, I like to connect with them after because it's a big group. And this particular person had actually been on my email list for a really long time, like a really long time. And I recognized her email because she'd been on my email list for so long. So she came to the call and I messaged her and I was like, I'm so glad that you came. Like, it was so nice to finally meet you. And she said, I don't know what it was, but I've just been really nervous about joining. But I'm so glad that I did because it was great. And I will be back forever now. But it was really hard for her to get over that initial hump of like, I'm going to get on a call with a bunch of strangers. What's going to happen here? And so it was just really cool and really validating. And so I share that. So if you're a person that's listening, that's like you telling me you want me to get on a call with a bunch of strangers I don't know and talk about myself and connect, I don't know if I feel super comfortable doing that. Know that it's a great place to be. I have evidence of people that I think that it probably took her 2 years to actually join the call. So please don't wait 2 years. If you want to come hang out with a bunch of cool moms that are building businesses, just head to the show notes. I'd love to see you there.
Perfect. I love that. I'm excited to do that. And thank you so much for coming on to talk to me today.
Thanks for having me. This was so fun.
Thank you so much for listening to Mompreneur Mastery, simple Instagram strategy for busy moms. If you were listening to this episode and found yourself nodding along, I would love it if you would find me on Instagram and send me a message telling me your biggest takeaway. My handle is @socially.yours.strategist. And don't forget to grab your free 1 month of Conversation Starters content calendar so that you know exactly what to post to get more comments without spending hours brainstorming Instagram post ideas. You can get it at sociallyyours.biz/content-calendar or head to the link in the show notes.